Welcome back to the Connected Podcast, recorded right here in Terre Haute, Indiana. I'm your host, Dallas Wilson, and this week we have the 13th president of Indiana State University, Mike Godard. How's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for having me.
Good. I'm happy you're on. I mean, this is a major thing for me, Indiana State being my alma mater. I want to talk about stuff not touched on so far. You've been on Channel 2, you've been on Channel 10. You've talked about the direction and what the job calls for, but I wanted to talk about Mike and his journey to this position. And I'd like to start that with you being a first generation. What was your mindset going into college, and what did that kind of transition to coming out of college?
Gosh, mindset was I had no idea what I didn't know. I think more than anything. I would say in general, probably relatively academically underprepared. Fairly mature in some senses and needed maturity in others. Mm-hmm. But I will say my mindset was that I wanted an opportunity. Mm-hmm. And when I say opportunity in life, and didn't know what that was going to look like moving forward. But I thought if I had the ability to go to college and hopefully get a quality education, that it might open some doors for me that perhaps my parents didn't have. And had to navigate through a few bumps in the road along the way to get to college, but certainly once I was there as well.
You spent some time going to Maine, right? You worked up there for a little bit. You spent some time in Illinois. You got your doctorate in human bioenergetics from Ball State University. Yeah. So you're pretty familiar with Indiana.
Yeah.
Ball State is like Indiana State's stepsister kind of thing, right? Yeah. The one that you tell your kids not to call auntie.
That's right.
Yeah, that stepsister. And then you ended up in Missouri and was in Missouri for a bit of time. What do you feel like you picked up from that admin experience that you're getting in so many different positions, so many valuable different positions?
Yeah. Yeah, if you'll allow me, I'll back up just a little bit and say this. One of the reasons why I went to college to start with was because I wanted to continue to play sports. Okay, let's just call a spade a spade.
What sport was that?
Well, originally it was track and field.
Okay.
But then after 2 years, and I went to a school down in Fayetteville, North Carolina, ran track for 2 years, and then kind of figured out what I wanted to do academically. Mm-hmm. The only reason why I figured out what I wanted to do academically is because I had an individual who was at that institution who mentored me along the way and kind of pulled me aside one day and was just like, "What are you doing? Like, what's the goal here? What aspirations do you have?" And kind of really directed me along my pathway, and was, even though they worked at this institution in Fayetteville, North Carolina, they completely understood that where I needed to go moving forward probably wasn't there. So I transferred. I grew up in Burlington, Vermont, technically South Burlington, Vermont. Mm-hmm. And so I transferred to a school in Vermont, which is now called Vermont State University, but at the time was called, everyone changes their names from time to time, but it was called Castleton State College at the time. And when I transferred there, I stopped running track and I started playing basketball. So I was able to do 2 different sports at 2 different institutions along my journey. Most importantly, though, yet again, I had great mentors in my life when I was at an undergraduate student at my second institution. And, I remember very vividly a conversation that I had with one of my faculty members at the time. And he said, you seem to be really motivated. You seem to be a good student. You seem to be really interested in what's going on. And have you ever thought about going on and getting your master's degree? Mm-hmm. Now, as a first-generation college student, I didn't know anything about going into getting my undergraduate degree. I had no idea what a master's degree even was. And so I said, what's that? I mean, what's that all about? They said, well, it's kind of advanced learning. And there's an opportunity that if you play your cards right, you can get a graduate assistantship. And I'm like, all right, what's that? Well, that's when someone pays for you to get your master's degree. And I said, well, that sounds like a good deal. So I ended up applying to just 2 institutions. and there's always fate in everything.
Mm-hmm.
So the two institutions that I applied to was the University of Maryland, and then the other one was Adelphi University in Garden City, Long Island, New York. Well, I ended up accepting an assistantship to go to Adelphi University, got my master's degree, and why that's fate is because 1 year ahead of me in the program was my future wife. So good thing I went to Adelphi, I guess, and not the University of Maryland, because I met my wife there. And we then, again, great mentors at the right time. I had individuals encourage me to say, hey, have you thought about going on and getting your PhD? And again, don't really know what that entails either, but tell me more, willing to learn. Worked for a couple of years, though, before I decided to go ahead and venture into thinking more about a PhD. But we lived and worked in, we lived in Long Island and took the Long Island Railroad into Manhattan every day, and then commuted to our respective places that we worked. And then I ended up getting in to the PhD program at Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana.
That must have been a little bit of a change up for you.
Right. So that's what I'm getting to. I mean, we moved and we're working in Manhattan, New York, and we're moved from Manhattan to Muncie. So everyone does that, right? Everyone goes from New York City to Muncie, Indiana.
Yeah,
That's
plenty of people.
Yeah. And so we made that shift. But again, it was this opportunity to that doors were just opened at the right time. And the program that I went into at Ball State, believe it or not, probably one of the best programs in the field in the world. Just known for it, and it's all about the people that are there. So the individual at the time who was overseeing that program, his name is Dr. Dave Costel, and he usually takes either one to two PhD students a year. And it was one of my mentors for my master's degree who kind of knew Dave Costel and put in a good word for me and kind of opened the door. And then it's up to you to do what you got to do, right? And I was fortunate to be accepted into that program. And Dave ended up retiring a year or two into my PhD program, but stuck around and was continuously a mentor. And I say this to say still a mentor, because when I was appointed as the 13th president of Indiana State University, Dave Costel, who retired back in the late 1990s, right? So Dave's probably in his mid-90s himself, texts me to congratulate me and tell me that he's been keeping an eye on me and what I've been up to and everything. So
did he use emojis? The two emojis?
No, he didn't go that far.
Would have been thoroughly impressed.
I know. But, to kind of know all along that you have people in your corner, and people are just kind of there for you, and they're looking for ways in which they can continue to invest in you. So the reason why I got into higher education was because of the people who gave me opportunities. So when I originally took my first job in Portland, Maine, I did it because I just wanted to be a mentor. I wanted to teach and be a mentor to young people like what I had. I had no aspirations of going into administration. My aspirations were to do that work on a day-to-day basis and just invest in others. But as your trajectory kind of goes, you see these different opportunities. And I really look at it as, if I'm going to ask questions or question why things are done a certain way, I better be a part of the solution. And so it really got to a point as I ventured in different leadership opportunities that were afforded to me. It was all about, can I make more of a positive change for the students who I want to invest in every day? And do I have more influence to make that positive change in their lives so that they have the type of trajectory that I had and the potential generational change, as a first generation college student that I had? So every move that I made through my career, that was always my mindset was, can this allow for me to better help, facilitate whatever that is, that next generation, to be able to make sure that they have that individualized pathway to be successful in life and work. So as I moved from Maine, I grew up in Vermont. My wife grew up in Maine. We had basically short-term memory loss when we were in Indiana, because when we moved back to Maine, to Portland, Maine, that first winter, all I did was shovel snow. And I thought to myself, I like working out, but I don't want to just shovel snow for working out. So we were in the Midwest at Ball State from 97 to 2000. We're in Maine for 2 years, and then we quickly came back to the Midwest, partially. And my oldest son was actually born in Muncie, Indiana. So he's truly a native Indianian. Is that a word? Hoosier. I'll just call him a Hoosier. Yeah, no, I'm take that back. Not Hoosier. Got to cut that out. Sycamore.
Sycamore.
Okay. Okay. All right. Cut that out. Even though he's wearing a Hoosier shirt. Right. Yeah. So, when we went from, Indiana to Maine, and then Maine, we moved, I took a faculty position at the University of Kansas, and I was there for 4 years. And, it was one of those things that I really still just wanted to mentor students. And I had a great opportunity to mentor several students, but I was so heavily focused on my research and directing a large lab. And I'm just like, gosh, I'm spending 80% of my time writing either articles or grants, and I'm getting away from where I feel like I have passion. And so I went back to a public comprehensive institution, a regional, similar to Indiana State. And, that's when I kind of sunk my teeth a little bit into some leadership opportunities. But the only reason why I had leadership opportunities was, again, because someone gave me an opportunity. Lifelong mentor now for me, dear friend, one of my best friends in the world. At the time at Western Illinois, when I got there, whatever year that was, 2006, one semester into me being there, an individual was hired to be provost. His name is Jack Thomas. Well, Jack and I met because we were at the YMCA. My kids were there. His kids were there. Just went up and introduced myself. And to this day, he reminds me that I'm the first person in the community that went up and just said hi to him and introduced myself to him and welcomed him, to the community, but just wanted to know more about him. Well, we quickly became friends, and not because of his affiliation as being in a leadership position at the institution, just because we had a lot of commonalities. He ran track in college, I ran track in college, all those things that just naturally happen. Well, through my time there, he ended up becoming president as well at Western Illinois University, and was a mentor to me along the way, and provided me opportunities and guided me along the way. And still, I consider him, like I said, a great friend. And but without Jack Thomas, I also wouldn't have had the opportunity to take that next step in my career. And great leaders never hold someone back. And instead of him saying, no, you got to stay here, he said, no, you got to go. You have to go and take that next step in your career. And I did. And that's when we moved to Missouri, originally to the University of Central Missouri, and spent time there originally as a department chairperson. But then again, people kind of invest in you along the way, and had the opportunity to serve in a couple of leadership roles there. The last being serving there as an interim provost. And again, that mentor there, who's one of my great friends now and colleagues, was Chuck Ambrose. And Chuck continuously encouraged me, told me what he saw in me as a leader, and helped me kind of develop along the way. And then I was able to, he moved on to other opportunities as well. And And then I took another opportunity at Southeast Missouri State University to be able to serve as kind of a permanent provost, chief academic officer. And I did that for 5 years. And really, during all those times, it's how do we impact students? How do we provide access and opportunity, open that door? And again, hopefully they get the same type of experience that I got with having good mentors in their lives and being able to just invest in people. You kind of said it. My dream job really is Indiana State University because I believe in the mission. I believe in the people we're able to serve. I believe in the community and what they have to the positive impact that they have on our students' lives when they're here, but the positive impact that they just have on the well-being of the region. And if we can play a small part of in that at Indiana State, then I think we've done our job.
The way you mentioned fate and how this is a dream job, it makes me want to bring up Northwest, which you applied for in 2023.
Yeah.
And then Dr. Tatum got the job, in which I looked at his resume. I looked at yours. It looked pretty identical.
Yeah.
But he still got the job over
Yeah.
you, and it makes you think. I'm not a very religious person, but a little bit of a God's plan for Terre Haute as well as yourself. And now you've gotten here, hit the ground running. You've gotten very involved in the community. What can you say to that? Like, where did your mindset switch from not receiving that position in 2023 to securing this position and getting here and realizing there's a lot of impact, positive, progressive impact I can make not only to ISU, but also the community?
It's hard time. It's hard as an individual who's a pretty competitive person. I don't like to lose. Don't like to be on that side of things. But at the same time, as I continue to develop and mature and learn about how do you take away the good from every experience. And what I'll say is that great institution, right? I wouldn't have applied to it if I didn't think I could have made a difference there as well. But everything happens for a reason. And, timing is everything in some instances as well. And what I took from that was this. I'm not convinced that my impact there would have been nearly as great as what I think, and I mean great in terms of size, right? And how many people I can potentially be a part of having an impact. I don't think it would have been to the same scale as what we're going to be able to do here at Indiana State and through the Wabash Valley. There's just no way. Scale's different. Community's different. Proximity to a lot of different things, our geographical location here in Terre Haute is much different. I think about the diversity of our campus that's different here at Indiana State, all those things, and where I believe my experiences and my skill set, they directly align with Indiana State, and they were okay with a few other opportunities, right? So I count my blessings every day that institution ended up going in a different direction. And I'm just very thankful about the trajectory that I was able to go down. And again, when I think about fit, because a lot of times it's timing and fit and everything. I think I fit Indiana State very well, Terre Haute, the Wabash Valley, and hopefully the university and the community thinks that, I fit them as well.
I love to hear you express such gratitude, because from anyone I've talked to who's had the opportunity to meet you, they've expressed how awesome and how grateful that you're the pick, that you're the guy who's going to come in here and potentially make a lasting impact. So I wanted to thank you for coming on to the Connected podcast.
Thank you.
And I would like for you all to tune in to this episode. Visit us at www.connect812.com. Thank you for listening. You just tuned in to the Connected podcast. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, maybe a member of the community you'd like to hear more about. If you want to go the extra mile, click the donation link below. If you'd like to continue listening, click right here. Thanks again for tuning in.